My name is Eric Anderson, and this is my shop. I want to give you a tour around. This is the layout of the workroom, and the area from this red line to this line here is the length of the room, which is about 40 feet. And the width of the room is about 14 feet, plus or minus, with nooks and crannies in. As you can see, this is the layout of the fluorescent light system I have now. A lot of them are now LEDs, but basically they're 4-foot dual fluorescent light fixtures. I've got them all over the basement, and there's quite a few. This area here takes about probably exceeding 20 amps for all these fixtures. So I've broken them into two sections. One section here, halfway with 50% of the lights in the workroom, and the other 50% over on this side. Now this photo shows the layout of all the machine tools with the lights gone so they don't confuse the drawing. As you can see, the layout that we're going to be actually seeing is not quite what this is, but it's very similar. I drew this before I actually moved in. And you know, as you can imagine, once you move in, you find out you want things in a little bit different spot, or you don't have to do something that you thought you'd have to do, and that type of thing. But this is the basic layout. Again, this is the 40-foot length, and this is the 14 to 20-foot area here. And this is where I have my electronics in this area. I have my wood stock here. I have in this area also my clamp rack. And I have dowel sticks over here. There's a bunch of tools in this area, the hand tools. And then over here is a spray booth for paint spraying. So that just about does it as far as what the layout is. Now we'll go look at the actual workroom. I want to give you a tour around, and we're going to start over in this corner here, and we're going to go around the room. This over here is a sander. One of them is a vertical sander, and a 12-inch disc sander. I don't use these too much. In fact, I'm probably going to be selling them down the line. So this sander is the more useful of the two because, as I'll show you later, I have a horizontal sander. So now let's go to the scroll saws. I have two scroll saws. This is the older of the two, and it's a Delta, an old Delta. This is the new one. It's the next caliber, but I've had it for about 3 years. It's a very nice scroll saw because the blade tilts, not the table, and that's important when you're doing some detailed work about inlays and things like that. It's a very nice scroll saw. I bought this light to go with it, which was only about $10, but it helps a lot. It's got a built-in blower mechanism and also uses a built-in vacuum system so it can keep the table pretty clean. Drill press. Everybody's got one. I got this thing about 45 years ago, maybe even more. So it was a Chinese or Taiwanese, Taiwanese at the time, and it's served me well. I haven't had any reason to go to a more useful one, or a floor model one. Now, over here, I have a planer. It's a Delta. It's one of the first portable planers put out, and it's served me well. It almost has no snipe. It's a very good planer. This is a mortising tool, a mortiser that I don't use very often. I used it when I built my furniture in my bedroom because it's arts and crafts, and this is good for that, but I hardly used it since then. This is a spindle sander, and it's very useful. I've used it quite a bit. It doesn't tear anything. That's probably a negative, but I've never had any real problem with it not having that feature. It's a Delta Boss. This is a horizontal sander that I use all the time for about everything I do. This horizontal sander was probably less than $200 at the time. It's a Chinese model. It's nothing special, but it does the job for me. This is a very nice jointer. It is a kind of a Delta knockoff, but it's a Shop Fox, which is the retail version of a Grizzly line of tools. Had no problem with it. It's done a real good job. Once again, I did all my woodworking about 10 years ago, and I've slacked off on it. And this 8-inch jointer is kind of an overkill right now, but it is a very nice jointer. Is my main router table. This is, it's got a 3 horsepower router, a plunge router in it. It's a Hitachi, and the nice part about the Hitachi is that it has a type of collet that will disengage with one turn. You don't have to unscrew it a number of times to disengage the bit. The top I bought, but the rest of it I built. So this contains tools and half-inch bits on this side, and over on this side they're 1/4-inch bits in 2 drawers down here. This is a small router, but it's got a Milwaukee router with a standard base on it, and I use it as a secondary router table. So this is the sharpening station. I have a work sharp here and a sharpening, a buffing station here that I got from Harbor Freight, and I've got a 1-inch by 42-inch sanding belt, a belt sander here. Now, if we go over here, we are looking at a Delta wood lathe that I got several years ago. It's a very nice quality MIDI type wood lathe, and I've used it quite a bit. The one I had before that was an old Sears, and it worked fine for the number of years I had it, but this is a much nicer unit. These are my turning tools, and I've got quite a few of them here, and I try to keep them sharp all the time. Now this is a sliding compound miter saw, again a Harbor Freight. I've modified it a little bit to give me zero clearance and that type of thing. I don't use it a lot right now, but since I probably will be getting rid of this next tool, this is a radial arm saw that I've had 50 years. It's in great shape, but it's an old Sears. I was the original owner of it. I've used it, my first woodworking, that's all I used. I didn't have a table saw. So this is quite a, it's an antique, so to speak, but so am I. So it has worked very well. Now the reason I kept this is because this is a lot quieter than the compound miter saw. But because of its size and the fact that it's a lot smaller, a lot lighter, and it does just about everything I need that this does. This has got a little bit more depth of cut. It's a lot quieter. I keep saying a lot quieter because it is. And I've fixed it up so I can make duplicate cuts with it. Each side comes up, and that's very useful. This side too. We're looking at my table saw. I got this about 15 years ago. Up till that time, I did everything on my older table saw for about 6 or so years. About half of my woodworking life, I have used the radial arm saw for everything that a table saw would be used for, and the rest of the time, I finally broke down and bought a 1.5 horsepower table saw. Now this is a 3 horsepower Delta, and it is a very nice saw. My wife got it for my 60th birthday. So there we are. These are the main tools. Oh, I forgot something. We have a bandsaw over here. That's a 14-inch Delta. I use it for cutting down, doing resawing. And I guess I should point out that I also have a air cleaner that has numerous of these around the room here. I guess I've got about 6 or 7 of them. And I can reach up almost at any station around here and turn the air cleaner on, and I just pull these, if I can reach it, doors on the air cleaner. Now it's only 1.5 horsepower, and it probably just barely does it, but it's capable of handling any of the machines. And of course I have the requisite toolboxes. And here is the wood rack, which has all my wood that I use for projects. These are the clamps. Clamp rack has all my clamps. You're never going to have enough. All my power hand tools, the routers, staplers, drills, saws, that type of thing. There's quite a few of them here. Paint spray booth. I've had this for probably about 40 years. It looks it too. It's been used a lot. And here I have all kinds of paints and finishes and filters and you name it. I have all kinds of equipment. You'll notice I keep almost everything in these tubs, these clear tubs. I not only keep them clear so I can see what's in them, but I also write on the outside pretty well what is in them. So between looking at it and reading what I have on the outside, I can keep track of most of my things. And over here I have the fasteners, the screws, and that type of thing. I have nuts and bolts over in the other room. And if we go over there, over on the far wall, I didn't really talk about that. Above the toolboxes, I have all kinds of fasteners and hardware and things like that on these carousels that basically I can scroll like that and move it around and take a look at what's in each of these glass bottles, which makes it very nice for storage and to see what I have in stock. Well, that just about does it for showing off my workroom. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.